Well, hello, hello. I hope everybody is doing well. This is the November Southern Fried DNN meetup, and it's great to see everybody. New faces, old faces showing up. We have Mike Smelter in the house and Paris, and we have all kinds of, and then of course the usuals, Jeremy and Daniel and Ryan. And
Usuals are still pretty exciting.
I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully it will cooperate with me. I've been having some Zoom problems lately, so hopefully everybody's able to see this screen okay. Just let me know if you do not. So yeah, it's let's see, last month. What was last month? We had a meetup on who presented last month? Oh, that was we were talking about DNN 9/11 last month. So that's still on the list tonight for today for kind of announcements, because for those of you that do not know, DNN 9.11.0
Has it really been out that long?
was dropped a little over a month ago. I think it had dropped right before last meetup that we had here. And we're really close, I think, fairly close. Not making a commitment for anybody, but Daniel, but going to release 9.11.1. There's been quite a few things reported that needed to be patched, or little bugs that have been caught here and there. So I know it's pending. It's coming soon-ish, but no set date. Yeah, we'll get into this a little bit more, but today Aaron's going to present something that we have no idea what he's going to present, and it's going to be great because it's going to be Schfifty-Five. And I had to do this, Aaron. I went and looked on YouTube and I found this video, so I'm assuming you know this video, right?
Of course. That's a classic from that's when memes were good.
I figured, I thought about playing it, but I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't play it. But if anybody wants to go out there and take a look at this one, they can go and do it. It's quite hilarious.
It'll change your life for sure.
Yeah. Let's see, in the realm of kind of announcements here. Let's see, we talked about a little bit about DNN and the pending release of 9.11.1. Which should be good, because that really should be like a stabilization release, if you will, of at least the things that have been reported since the release of 9.11. And again, for those that may not know, 9.11, it may seem like just a minor release, but it really, for all practical purposes, is kind of a major release in the sense that there's been a lot of changes to that. So I probably should actually have that up here just to do a quick recap of what all is included in that. So we're out here on the GitHub site, 9.11 release, and you can read through the release notes and see this. But probably the biggest highlights of this are that on a clean install of 9.11.0 now, you will not have any references to Telric or dependencies on Telric, the old DNN wrapper Telric here. So right out of the box, it will be way more secure than it's ever been for a long time now, and that's really good news. The other thing is a brand new resource manager, which you might be saying, well, wasn't there a brand new resource manager in the last release? Well, yeah, there was, but this is a brand new resource manager. It's been rewritten completely from scratch, and pretty good reviews on that so far. There's been
new resource manager.
Yeah, the new resource manager. Yeah. I think the feedback on it has been very positive so far. Of course, there have been some issues that have been reported, just the things that could either be minor UX improvements or little bugs, well, some of them are kind of bigger bugs, like with the paths and things like that. But those have been, to my knowledge, most of those have been resolved and will be included in the 9.11.1 release. So you should see that. And then you can kind of look through the rest of it. But yeah, it was a big release. As you can see, there were a lot of contributions that were made out here to this one. And yeah, it's great. I've seen quite a few.
Isn't it worth pointing out that there were critical updates in this release?
Oh, that's actually a good point there, Jeremy. Let me go out.
Security critical.
DNNcommunity.org. And for those that don't know, the Security Center is here now, the official DNN Security Center. And for this release, so if we were to put this, this is basically showing the latest here. I think there's 13 of them here. Here, and you can go into the, well, I should probably do this. Daniel, why is 9.11 not showing there?
There is an improvement to do here from the
Yeah.
update service. We need a list of versions because this was only done in the front end, the list of versions. So we don't
thought
have
we did that.
9.10.2 there.
Yeah, I thought we did that. But these first, let's see. Yeah, all of these from 9/28, September 28th, when they were published.
Mm.
From there on up, those are related to 9.11. Now, the security issues don't exist in 9.11. These were security issues that were mitigated in the release of 9.11.0. And that's when the security bulletins get published after the fixes have actually been out in the wild. So you can take a look at these and see what all applies. So if you have not upgraded, definitely plan to do that as soon as possible. And, if you run into any issues with that, just know that 9.11.1 is coming soon, and you'll be able to resolve those as well. Let's see. What was the other thing I was going to say here? Yeah, my brain just did a flip. Okay, so since I can't remember, maybe I'll circle back. I'll mention this. Thanks to Jeremy for posting this earlier today, but there was a new release of Too Sexy for those people that are using that. And this is a long-term support release, 14.12.2. So I think the first LTS in this 9.12 range was 9.12.0 or 1. Maybe it was 1. That was marked as LTS. So this is the second LTS in the 14.12 range here. So hopefully this is gives us the stability on this to start using it on production sites. So it's good to know there. I will briefly mention this. I debated on doing this, but I think I'm going to go ahead and pin myself into a corner here. so it'll happen. And I had mentioned this to a few people, but I'm going to go ahead and start a meetup for Too Sexy community here. And it's going to be a little bit short notice on this first one, but it's planned for December the 2nd. I do have it out on meetup.com, but I'll do some proper announcements once things start getting cleaned up in there. But if you are a 2SXC user and or interested in that, it seems like we have a lot of people in the community that use this, and instead of just having all that content always in our Southern Fried, DNN, or other mediums, it's good to kind of spawn that off into its own little meetup group so we can dive a little deeper and talk more about it. All the passionate people that are in that community will have a place to come and hang out, show and tell, and it'll be a little bit format from this one. Instead of just long presentations all the time, it could be a show and tell session, or just, chatting, fireside chats and sharing of information and things like that. So looking forward to that. Let's see. Anything else in the community that we should bring highlight to?
Discord.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. I actually had it on my screen so that I could share it. Thank you. That was the thing that I was going to say and forgot. Okay, for those of you that don't know, DNN community is now on Discord as well. Just to break down a bit of confusion amongst some, this is not to replace anything that's out there already. It's just that there's a lot of people already on Discord, and that's the world they live in. And it's good to have DNN present on any kind of platform, like this, where we could, have a community. So I think feedback's been pretty good on this so far, but we're still in the beginning days of this. And I plan to do a deeper dive on, helping people that haven't used Discord to know kind of what all is available in here, but just highlights for you. There's general channels like you would see in Slack, and we're still on Slack. So some people may decide not to use Slack anymore, but that is not the goal of setting up Discord. Just so everybody knows, if you live on Slack, we'll still continue to be on Slack. if it obviously dies down there, in the future, then we can make a decision to
If you make it die
sunset that.
down, then it
Yeah.
dies down.
I didn't say that, Daniel. I'm
Let it-
careful with
Just
the
Let
way.
it
saying, just
die.
saying.
Let it die. Let it die.
Well, and it's one of those things. Everybody has their own preferences and so
Yeah.
forth. But I think one of the
Yeah.
things that sparked this going live, I actually created it well over a year ago, but just didn't announce it because things were working fine in Slack, and there's no need to, kind of dilute the community, if you will, by trying to launch something else. But I think with Slack putting the constraints on the history and
Yep.
kind of putting a hard cap of 90 days, that kind of makes it less useful when you're trying to find things that have been conversations before, but yet it's gone because it's been 90 days and it falls off. Discord is unlimited in the history as of right now. This could change
As of right now, yeah.
but yeah, as of right now, it's unlimited, and
Oh.
it has been for a long time. So I don't really expect it to change. Slack had limitations before as well. A lot of people didn't know it though, because they didn't make such a big deal out of it. I think they're trying
Right.
to ramp up the monetization, but it did have
I hear Elon Musk might be
It was-
buying it.
Oh,
Oh, geez. No,
I
that's a
doubt
joke.
that, because he'd have to buy it
never
from
know.
Microsoft, but it did have a cap of 10,000 messages before. So, it's
Yeah.
real close to what the 90 days was, but it wasn't as obvious, that things were falling off.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
I'll chime in just for a second too about Slack. That I'm one of the bigger proponents for using Slack because I live in it and have 10 or 12 Slack workstation or workspaces open all the time. And initially for communities, the biggest impact that you were going to reach before you got to the 10,000 message limit was files. That if you shared files, those had on the free account limitation of 60 or 90 days, but that's okay. It was for files. And after that time, it would show them as, not available because they've expired. And that was okay because the message still remained. But really, now that they've moved to this cap of 90 days, we hit that a lot faster with a lot more content. It's not one message or two messages at a time. It's whole swaths of content. And it's a real problem for organizations that want to use Slack as an archive of things that people are talking about. Now, arguably, a difficult archive to look through. So there's 100% that. But it's now more painful.
And if we differentiate between free and paid, one thing that's cool with the Discord is that as a community, we don't have a company behind the community, right? It's just a group of people. So we don't have an entity to pay for a paid account. With Discord, it's a bit different because it's users that boost their own account by buying Nitro. The user gets perks and the user gets 2 server boosts that they can give to whatever server they want. So right now we have more features than the basic free plan because of people who have done that.
Yeah.
Daniel, I think maybe Ryan wasn't finished, but Ryan, your audio.
I'm sorry.
Your audio went almost out, and I think that's why
It did. It
opened
dropped.
up.
My headset died, so I
Oh,
stopped.
okay. I'm sorry
Okay.
to cut you.
Oh,
I
no
thought
worries,
you had
Daniel.
finished.
All good, because I like where you were going with that, and I'd love to learn more about it. So I'm one of those folks who would prefer to stay on Slack forever, but the features are not there, and we're having some problems. So I'd love to learn more about being on Discord for it. So David, I'll be ready to pay attention when you do it.
Yeah, I'll do a deeper
Yeah,
dive.
I, for one, find it truly painful that there's a lot of conversations and help we've seen happen on Slack that it's gone now. We can't get back to it. We can't go search and look up something that was very important just 6 months ago. It's gone.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And we could pay for a paid license for a month, get that stuff back, go search for it. So there are ways for us to fetch it if we need to, but it's still painful. There's pain everywhere around it.
Yeah, so just a general lay of the land here for those that are not familiar with Discord. It's similar to Slack in the sense that it has the channels, the text channels, but there's some real power features here as well. It's so easy to drop into a voice channel which is a little bit misleading in the what it's called there, but it's also video and screen share and all this. So it's basically like a Zoom that you can jump into. And now Jeremy's in there. So I could jump in there. We're going to have a little bit of a challenge here, but if I go into this Hangout now, we're in here and talking, and Daniel's in here as well. So just like that, we have a meeting up and going, and we can share screens, turn cameras on and all that good stuff. Of course, it's going to be, I don't know if my Zoom's going to blow up here at the same time. So I'm going to
I'm so confused.
But it's fantastic. And I know Daniel's been doing this quite a bit, trying to be in the Hangout and so forth, you know, as working on open source things and all that, and hanging out. I've jumped over into the help several times and opened it up to try to help people out. But the idea is that we can have these channels and say, hey, I got something cool to show, you know, Jeremy, you want to jump into the show and tell, and I can show you real quick. And we don't have to, you know, set up a Zoom and send links around and all this kind of stuff. We can just drop into it. So that's really good. And then there's the start of an extensions group here, where the idea is if there are extensions that are more popular that people are talking about or wanting to interact with, we can create more channels here as well. One really cool feature that I love is the forums. And this is kind of a modern day forum experience, and it's already getting quite a bit.
I'll second that. These are awesome.
And we've got tags set up for these to make it easier for you to filter things by. And this could get even better as we go on. But if I wanted to look and see what everything's been said about security, I can just filter it by security. And there's the one, you know, form thread that's already been done on this, and jump in here. And it's more of a threaded conversation without having to literally create a thread. So more topical in nature, but what you would expect on a website form, but just kind of better and quicker, more real time, instead of waiting a week to get a notification that's been auto filed and, you know, trying to go and respond to it. So that's working out really well so far. And you can get to the history of things as well in here. And then we set up these 4 here just for the advisory groups that are there. Nothing's really been done there yet, other than just a few things posted in awareness. But if you have ideas on how this could be better or grow, I think keeping it as simple as we can helps. But at the same time, if there's new channels that just absolutely need to be created or whatever, just feel free to let myself know, or and I'll be glad to do that. But yeah, if you need an invite, that's the other thing. These invites do expire. Try to post them every once in a while. But anytime you need an invite for somebody, I think you can just right click on this and invite people, and it will create.
There is a way to make the invite so it won't expire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Maybe.
I found it, but I don't remember it right now.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I haven't found that one yet.
And if you just feel like hanging out and you join the voice hangout channel, you can listen only, or listen and talk, or share video, or share screen. So even when I'm like working on private projects,
so
as long
nice.
as I'm not in a meeting with someone else, I'm hanging out there, you know? So you want to say hi, drop by, and we talk about life and stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay. I asked earlier, but I didn't hear anybody, so I want to give it one more chance. Is there anything else in the community that we need to highlight as far as things?
Let's talk DNN Summit.
Oh, thank you, Ryan. Yes. Do you want to chat about that real quick?
Sure. DNN Summit, we just finished up the call for speakers. If we missed you and you're one of the regulars who speaks at DNN conventions, it's probably too late. We've probably got all of the things blocked, but if you're desperate, and we also may need some backups in case people cancel or have issues once we get closer to February. So anyways, short version long there, reach out to me or Mitch or Cassidy and submit your information. It's still going through Sessionize like it has in the past. So if you're interested in submitting, just let somebody know and we'll either open it up to you or get that invitation going. But that said, submissions for speakers has finished, and I know that Cassidy and Mitch are going through the schedule right now to work on combining together the best sets and the number of concurrent sessions we're going to have going on at the same time, things like that. We have early bird pricing that is finishing coming up soon. That finishes in the very beginning of December, and that will be here before you know it. So if you haven't registered, go ahead and register now, because that price jumps up to $199 after December the 9th. Interestingly, if you look at the statistics for registrations for the conference, we either have a giant push of people registering on the day early bird finishes, or they wait until January and it's the start of the year kind of thing. But I encourage everybody to go ahead and register now as possible. We will be doing, or we are planning to do, swag for this virtual conference this year. So we're working out the details now, but something to the effect of the very first 150 people who register will be receiving their swag box with shirt and stickers and all kinds of things to get you in the mood for being at the DNN Summit Conference virtually from your home or home office or what have you. So that's another encouragement to go ahead and get registering fast. Sponsors, actually, you just touched on that for a second. We do have sponsors, but we are still looking for more sponsors. If anyone is interested, or if you know people who sponsored in the past and want to reach out to them, would love to add to the people. There are sponsored tracks this year. There were sponsored tracks last year, but there are sponsored tracks. So that's another opportunity for you to get message out to DNN community and to the DNN enthusiasts out there. So we welcome getting more sponsors onto supporting us with this particular event. And then we go back over to just the content. This is online this year, just like it was last year through the hop-in application. And one thing that has been cleared is that in the past, there's been a few different ways we've handled video, because it wasn't fully supported in the platform at one point, or another point, it was only there for a limited time. We have confirmed that this year, video is fully supported. So we will have a full set of all of the session recordings available to those who attend the conference. So when there are 4 concurrent sessions going on, you can pay really close attention to the one you're on and know that the other 3 that happened in that same hour, you can go back and watch after the conference is over from the from the comfort of your own chair. So plenty of good reasons to sign up for DNN Summit and get that early bird registration taken care of.
Thanks, Ron. I love the way you put that. Hey, if you want to speak, it's too late. Now, my guess is that there's probably still some slots that could be slid.
There's always a little
Yeah.
wiggle room. If you're
Yeah,
passionate about it, bring that message. I'm sure we can squeeze you in somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. In that. Oh yeah. So I'm going to mention this because I might forget.
Ooh, thank you.
At the next month's Southern Fried DNN, and that will be in the evening time, East Coast evening time, 6:30. Back to that flip schedule. Ryan is going to be doing this one. Do you want to give a sneak peek of like what at least what to expect with this?
All right. For those of you who grew up in the 80s and watched Dick Clark doing the $10,000 pyramid and later the $75,000 pyramid and then the $100,000 pyramid, that pyramid kept growing over time to keep up with inflation. But it's a fantastic game show. Every Christmas, we've tried to do something fun for our So Fried meetup in December. And the past couple of years, we've done DNN Jeopardy. And we'll continue doing DNN Jeopardy in the future. But for right now, we're branching out with some new games to shake it up a little bit. And coming up here this December is the $100,000, the DNN $100,000 pyramid. That is the type of game where 2 teams of 2 people go back and forth to give each other prompts and make them guess or say those words. And we go through round robin style until we see who's the winner at the DNN $100,000 pyramid. It'll be a lot of fun. We will need 2 teams of 2 people. If you're watching or are online now, just message me. Would love to have you in there. Otherwise, I'll be reaching out to people and seeing who I can twist their arms a bit to have them be our first guinea pigs for this new game. It's bound to be a lot of fun.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Sounds like some fun things ahead. I'll also mention if you're interested in presenting something at a Southern Fried DNN, and that it doesn't have to be anything super formal or long or anything like that. Just if there's any interest at all to share some things that you have learned or have done, or things that you think other people might be interested in, do let us know, because we're always seems to be a little bit of a struggle sometimes to find people that are interested in speaking for these meetups. So it'd be really great to do that. And if it's a short session, I mean, even if it's 15 minutes long, that's okay. We can do multiple 15-minute segments, with people to get little short snippets and so forth. So don't be, feared by the awesome presenting skills of the likes of Jeremy Ferentz and Aaron Lopez and Ryan Moore and Daniel Volanis and all these guys that are superstars. Okay, that being said, the superstar for today, Aaron Lopez, take it away, my friend.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for that intro. Okay, so today's session, I wanted to just share a bunch of just things I do sort of all the time, and I wanted to package it in a way that I think will be really easily consumable by people who are building DNN websites, just to kind of like the low-hanging fruit, I guess. You could fix things up on your website in just a couple of minutes or a few minutes, really, really easily. So let's jump right in. So the first one I wanted to share was, I guess I have to share my screen. Let's see. Where are we? Here we go. Okay, can you see just a blank screen now? Basically.
Seeing a background image.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the first one I want to share is just typography. So as everyone is probably very, very aware, typography in DNN, the normal class is not really the greatest. It's a bit out of date. It can be hard to kind of manage. And so, of course, I use Tailwind, as everyone probably knows here. And Tailwind has this amazing typography plugin that you can just use, and it creates all the styles for you. And so I just kind of want to show you just sort of a small example. So here's a nice Tailwind website in DNN. And then if I go down here, this is not the most sophisticated example because it's just a bunch of paragraphs, but I'll show you a little bit more about that. So if we go down, we see, this is basically Tailwind typography. So to give you a little bit of better example, I'm just going to pull up the Tailwind typography website. So even if you're not using Tailwind in your themes, you can still leverage the Tailwind class to kind of create some quick CSS to kind of just inject into your existing website. So if we look at the live demo here, this is Tailwind Play, so you can kind of play around with Tailwind and see how it works, and you can try out different things. So this is the Tailwind typography. So just to kind of pull this out really quick, I'm just going to remove it, strip it down to its most basic classes. So we have the pros class. I think I just get rid of these two. And I'm just going to wrap this in a padding class just so you can kind of see it a little bit better around the whole thing. But straight out of the box, so if I apply this pros class to a bunch of HTML markup, so this is what would go in your maybe your HTML module or whatever module you're creating. All I need to do is drop a pros class on it, and suddenly all the CSS is generated to give you really nice typography. And so if I look at the config file, you see we're just injecting the Tailwind typography class. So if I look into the generated CSS and go into components, you see it generates all these classes to style basically everything: headings, bullet lists, tables, images, I think to a certain degree, figure, just all of those things that you might not think to necessarily style. Even does like nested lists and everything like that. So what someone could do if they were so driven is they could just grab this and just use it in their own themes. Of course, this uses the pros class, so which they might not want. So what you could do, if I jump over to here, I've updated my config. Oh, wait, not this one. Hold on. Let's go back a second. If I go to the Tailwind docs and I go to the default class name, I can actually change it to whatever I want. So if you wanted to, not that I necessarily suggest this, you could actually configure the class name to be, what am I doing wrong here? Oh, here we go. Let's change it to the normal class. So that's if you want to change it to the, if you really want, you could change it to the DNN normal class. So that would suddenly work in, you know, HTML modules, and you could use that accordingly. There is a little bit of a caveat in that obviously normal, if you have default.css loading, it's still going to conflict with some things like block quotes, especially I've found. Paragraphs inside list items have some funky stuff going on. But if you're not loading default CSS, then it shouldn't be a problem. And if, yeah, most likely in most scenarios for me, I'm using the pros class by default because it's just a lot easier and simpler. But if you are not, and you want to see what that looks like, where did I put this? Okay. I've created this sort of starting point for people to kind of play around with. So I've got the config to change it to the normal class, and I've even disabled the pre-flight. So that strips out the resets and all that. And then I have some CSS loading using the apply to just fix some of the overrides. So this is sort of a very bare bones beta kind of style. But what someone could do is they could just go into the generated CSS, go into components, and they could just copy. Oh, there's even a copy button. They could copy that, drop it into their theme or their portal CSS, and suddenly they have typography that looks far, far better than the probably out of the box DNN typography.
Yep.
I mean, you could literally do anything and it would improve the DNN typography. So for people who, you know, maybe they've got themes that, you know, they're not great at CSS, or they're not using some kind of pre-made theme builder or, you know, framework or something like that, they could just quickly take this and just, you know, grab it and it works. So this is actually here, I used an example from the DNN community website. So I didn't change any of the markup except for remove a couple of inline span style tags. And I just dropped on a regular, you know, normal class. And suddenly I've got, you know, a nicer kind of styled up thing. There's even another thing you could do if you want to get really particular is the typography plugin has a sweet thing where you can go like this, normal heading 2 font bold. I think it's already bold maybe. Let's see, text primary. Nope, I don't have that color configured. Let's say normal 2 text 7XL. So you could modify your heading 2s by the wrapper class. You could do it for literally anything. You could change these marker to a different color. And then it just generates it all for you. And that is a really powerful thing. I've found with using Tailwind over the past couple of years, it's super, super powerful because you don't always want the same typography classes for every single thing. Sometimes you want, you know, if it's a part of a page that maybe has fine print, maybe you want normal SM to make it smaller. In this case, it's very confused because I'm using the normal classes, but yeah, that is normal SM. You can make it smaller for that particular section, or you could change the style of the text or whatever, the sizes for each section that you're building. So maybe in a footer, your typography is different than the main body of the site. Okay, so that is the first one. And this file, I think it's this one, people could just grab and use as they want. So if you browse to this, it's kind of like CodePen or something. You could just take that and you could modify it and play around with the config and change your styles, and then just grab the generated CSS and just copy into your site and you're good to go.
If you're able to,
So-
Aaron, just paste that into the chat there. 'Cause
Yeah, for sure.
that is really cool.
Okay.
Saves so
So
much time too, because I mean, it'll be consistently proportioned right out of the box, right?
for sure. Okay, so that is number one. Number two is, let's see. So I've actually blogged about this a few years ago, and I had an idea after building the building that typography sort of generator. I thought, why not take my login styles that I usually use on all my themes and just package it into, you know, a Tailwind play that people could just copy and paste, or they could modify and then copy and paste. So using sort of the same idea, I've got the module for login, and I've just got it in the HTML here. And then I have a config file with just a color set. And this is where you would set your colors, I guess. And I even have the forms plugin. And then in CSS, I have sort of an updated version. This is still kind of very beta, but this is an updated version of what I posted about 3 years ago. Because I still get people asking me or telling me, yeah, I use your login style from your blog post, and it's a little bit out of date. So I tried to kind of bring it up a little bit. But here is a login style generator for a website. So if you want to replace that very typical, you know, login, which we can see, I guess everyone knows it, but it's that typical DNN login that you always see, which looks something like this. You can just use this to come in here.
Why did you make it so
Maybe-
ugly in yours? I don't understand why you like didn't leave it the way it was.
And then you can update your colors. You know, you can add more colors, and then you can, you know, if you want to modify any of the CSS, you can do that here in the Tailwind thing, and then you can just grab your CSS afterwards. You just grab your login from your login panel down. You can just grab all that and then just drop it into a page. So actually, let me see if I can do this.
You're being brave.
So obviously, let's see, that's some CSS. Hope this works. Where do I go from? You know, I'm just gonna copy the whole thing. And then we've got this staging site where I'm just doing it inside portal.css, but you probably could put it in your theme file or whatever. And then suddenly you have a styled login. So obviously this could probably use some work. Everything's a little bit large for some reason. You know, this is the first time I've used Exilian in a million years. So, but yeah, there you go. So that is a login style generator. And I would encourage people to take that, remix it, update their styles to whatever they want, update their button styles, yeah, as they see fit. One thing I should note, so I'm actually doing something here where for the buttons, I've actually defined my button styles for these things. And then I'm grabbing them for the DNN primary action here. So they just have to be mindful of that. Like if you already have button styles, you might want to just update your button styles accordingly in this to match the rest of your site. Okay, so that is the login update. And I'm going to share that one as well in the chat. If I can find it. Okay, cool. The next thing I want to show you are responsive breakpoints. So responsive breakpoints for headings. So a super common thing, let me just make sure I get this right. Got a lot of links.
Aaron, if it's okay with you, I will put these links in the description on the YouTube post.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
for people as well.
for sure. So a really common thing that I've found, and maybe other people are finding, is that headings and websites seem to get larger and larger. We're getting huge, huge headings in font size. And obviously the way you can handle that is, you know, for small screens is just make the font smaller. That's one way to do it. Usually that's kind of a problem because, you know, it just, you know, maybe it's too small. Maybe you want that big sort of heading size. But how do you allow people to enter the breakpoints that they want in like a responsive way that's sort of consistent? So I'm trying to remember where I'm at with this particular module. So this is a more of a too sexy content thing, but I think I did put a little bit of stuff for Tailwind in here. But basically, let me show how you would do this. So here's just a big heading module. That's all it does. If I go to edit, there's just a heading field with 3 rows. So having multiple rows, this is more of a basic too sexy content thing. So everyone's probably looking at this like, obviously, but you have these, you have the ability now with 3 rows to be able to break it to the next line. But what happens, of course, in the template is that if you just have it rendering your title with content, let's see. Oh, yeah, here's heading start. So this template is just taking that content heading and it's just spitting it out. And obviously that's just going to write it out on one line. One thing you could do, which a lot of people probably do, is you just do a replace on the carriage returns. So when it sees the carriage return inside of that field, it just does a break tag, which is totally fine in some cases. The problem is that on mobile screens, that will break. And so you could do like CSS to hide breaks, I suppose. Something that I do way more often, because kind of like typography, the breakpoints actually change depending on the context of the thing I'm building. Sometimes I want them to break at different screen sizes. Sometimes I want them to do other things at different screen sizes. So what I do is I just have, I have a span tag that has a class that's a responsive break tag. So if I look, I should have done this. I should have started with the unfinished code, but I've got finished code here, I think. Let's just take a look. So if I look at this H1, whenever there's a break in the input, I'm injecting this span that has a responsive break MD. So it breaks at a medium screen size, which then allows it so that you can still have that large font size, and it only breaks when you get to the larger screen size, and you start, and you need the break to happen. So yeah, that's just a really simple way to get that in there. So I'll just kind of go over the code really quick. But yeah, so basically, instead of replacing the carriage returns with a break tag, I replace it with a class that breaks responsively at larger screens. That way allows you to have larger font sizes, and then it doesn't break for mobile screens. One thing I would like to show you, if I can find where I put this, is this one's that. How that looks when I'm actually developing this is like this. So when I'm doing it in the Tailwind way, I'm using a span tag, and then I just have LG block. You know, for large screens, or sorry, for mobile screens, it's hidden. Large screen, it becomes a block. So that way we can still have these, you know, larger font sizes, but it doesn't break on the smaller screen. And it's nice because, you know, in this particular example down here, you know, it's like we want a medium one. And of course you could write this in plain CSS too, but it's sort of nicer in the Tailwind way because it's just a little bit more organized. It's reusable. So there we go. Do I have markup for this, or do I have code for this one? I do not, but maybe I can send you something later. Okay. So that is responsive breakpoints for headings. And yeah, just to kind of recap on that one, I use that everywhere. Like I use that in big sections. I use that in small cards. It's a really useful thing because I think for the most part, I think in 95% of situations, I'm always replacing it with, I'm not replacing it with a responsive break. I'm not replacing it with a break. I'm replacing it with a responsive break. So that's one way to do it. Okay, so anchors. This is from a blog post that I wrote a while ago, but I always find it useful, and I find it, I'm using it on every single website. So let's do this. So I'm going to show one of my favorite websites. So this website, well, let me ask you something, because I see this all the time, and I'm wondering if other people are seeing this. How often do people get asked from their customers or clients, can you put in like an anchor so that you can scroll down the page to a module immediately or a section immediately? It's just all the time. I get asked from new customers and old customers alike, you know, can we do that so that we can just put in a hashtag? And the problem in the past is that I think, you know, if you're dropping an HTML module or some other custom module, if it doesn't have that sort of anchor functionality built in, you have to rely on grabbing like the module ID or whatever the generated thing is, which could look really ugly. So I think if I use maybe this as an example, you know, here's the module ID. So I'm just grabbing that module ID. So if I wanted to scroll down here, I can do that, but this is really ugly, obviously. So there is a way to do this in Too Sexy Content that's way, way easier. And it's something I kind of just build out of the box in every app I build now. So what you do is, let's go to this page. Oh, wait, hold on. Got to find the right one, sorry. Okay, so this is just a sort of a sample page. So let's say I've got, you know, some modules on this page. I've got like a heading page, I've got this video page, and then I've got some content down here. What you can do really, really simply is in your content type. So this is my basic content type. And content, I have a field called anchor. And then the input type is URL path. So just to kind of recap, I already have it set up here, but I'll kind of show you how that's done. So let's say anchor 2, and then you choose your input type as URL path or path part. So when you set that up, you can go down here, and then the auto generate path mask should match the title that you've got set, or the title that you want the module to be named, or what the anchor will be. So I've got it set as title. So that when I go into here and go to edit, or like imagine you're a user or a content editor, and let's see if does this do it if I remove it? Yeah, it does. This is my new heading. So it actually creates the anchor automatically for me. And the cool thing is, you know, they can type it out and they'll see, oh, this is actually calling it, this is what the anchor will be for this. But they can still modify it. So let's say that, you know, this is going to be our amazing services. So even though I've got a heading that's separate from the anchor, you know, it starts with the default and then they can still modify it if they need to. Usually I would add in a little bit of helper text here as well, just to kind of tell the user like, you know, oh, you can actually link to this. So that's half of it. So all I did was I added the anchor field, made it required. You don't have to make it required if you don't want, but, and then just set it so that it matches the title. So once I do that, I have in my template an ID on this section. So on the wrapper of the entire module, I have an ID content anchor. So it's grabbing, you know, whatever is typed into that. And oh yeah, just to recap, in case, I mean, all you guys know this, but in case it's unclear to anyone else, the reason why we use a URL part path is because it does this awesome thing where when I hit space or I try to put in illegal characters or anything like that, it actually stops me from typing, you know, like exclamation marks and stuff. And it also makes it lowercase, which I really like personally, and puts in the dashes automatically. So once that happens, we've added the ID with content anchor. So now if I inspect this, the section ID matches what that content anchor is. So now they have that right in their module. So if I go like this, and let's see, give me 1 second. Now your customers can type in a link. What am I doing? Sorry. Now they can type in the link, you know, that looks like the ID. So if they go like this, it will scroll down the page to that anchor section. So now they can both automatically, it customizes the anchor for them. They can modify it if they need to. They can actually read what that is without having to inspect, you know, the HTML source or whatever. And then they can just provide, you know, they can do their email campaigns or they can send out their links and you have an ID that scrolls automatically. The one thing I think you need to do as well, which you may have spotted in my custom CSS on the staging site, is that, HTML scroll behavior in CSS makes it so that it actually does a smooth scroll. But yeah, that's how you do anchors. So you can see it's really simple. Just add the anchor field, URL part or path, and then just update your Razor template to have the ID with your content anchor attached to it and have CSS for HTML scroll behavior. And yeah, that's something you have to apply to each module. So you have to do it for, you know, your basic content. You'll have to do it for your pathway cards, your team listings, your call to actions, and all that kind of stuff. But it's a really easy thing to do on each one. Okay. Now, the last thing to show you are colorful icons. So if I go back to this website, this is more of like a content editor experience thing, but I do it for myself as well because I think it's good. So, and actually I'm going to be stepping on Jeremy's toes because I know he probably has a much better way to do this, but I'm going to go out there and end on this one. So if you're looking at a page like this, let's go in as a content editor. Okay. Don't judge me for the status of the DNN version. Publicly, at least.
You are judged.
So
you're so judged.
Well, you have a persona bar. That's better than some sites.
This is true.
That's true. That's very true.
I
So,
saw a 7.0.2 site just yesterday.
oh, wow. So, when you are using Too Sexy content, obviously we edit things differently. We don't necessarily need to go into the edit mode. We just hover over and we get these icons. Super nice experience. One thing that happens a lot, I found, is that if you just let it do the regular thing where, let me just go to FAQ. No, I think I've got pretty good examples on all these ones. I think I did my work and actually, yeah, let's actually, this is a good example where I missed this one. So this is what a lot of editors see when you're on a Too Sexy content website. You see this default blue, which is totally fine. But sometimes it can get a little bit confusing if you have a lot of items, if you have items that are sub-entities, like, items within other items. So a really, really simple thing you can do is you can actually change the color of the icons. So you see it here, for example, editing this one is actually editing the whole list of cards, but editing an individual item actually gets a gray icon. And so this is really useful, especially on pages like past projects. So when a content editor goes into this site, they can go and they see, oh, this orange is editing this group of icons, while this light blue is editing this individual card. It's also really useful, I found, when people go, oh, how do I edit that thing? And you're typing back, you say, click on the light blue icon, click on the purple icon, click on, this icon, not the green one, or whatever the case is. But this is really, really easy to implement. So what you do is, let's go to a simpler example. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I'm going to pull up, where is this? I had this somewhere. Okay, going back to this page for a second. If I go to this template, so you notice this one has this funky green color. All you need to do for your toolbar, so I've got my edit tag toolbar here, and then on the settings, I just have a color and you just put in the hex code here. And that's it. That's the tip. But you just do that per template. You just kind of modify your tag toolbars, and it's really nice because on a more complicated example, you would have multiple tag toolbars on different things, and then you can customize it, and then yeah, it makes it easy for the editor to know what they're editing. Cool. So those are my 5 tips.
Those are great, Aaron. That's
Thank you.
I love the way that you're using the colors on the different, especially when you got sub entities and so forth that you're dealing with. That really helps clean up the administrative experience and make it a little more obvious. It's good.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to do this
It's
more,
definitely-
Alessandra.
Do you remember when there was that version? I want to say it was 12, maybe, of Too Sexy content where there was the glow introduced.
Oh God, yeah.
That introduced a lot of problems. I'm glad to see it's gone, but that introduced a lot of problems because suddenly there was this weird greenish glow on these these carefully selected brand colors that I set up. It was an easy fix, and then he actually just took it away, which is good after I submitted a GitHub issue. But yeah, I'm glad I'm glad it's gone.
Well, that is great. Does anybody have questions for Aaron on any of these? That means you must have done a perfect job, Aaron. Yeah.
I guess so.
Yep.
Either that or you just completely lost everybody from the get-go. all the
think-
non-Tailwind users just checked out on the first one, I believe. That's it's like, oh crap, this is another Tailwind thing.
Mm.
No. No, what I like about what you did is, showing that it's not really just, yes, you get this in Tailwind and you can use Tailwind and all that stuff, but here's how you leverage what it's doing as output and not really have to use Tailwind in the end. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
Doug, I have a
that's one of
question.
one of the neat things about Tailwind is that it can be the thing, it can be the framework you want, or it can just blend into something. And there's so many options to blend in. Like you can actually prefix it. You can disable the core pre-flight, which is the reset CSS, and then you can leverage that in that regard. And so it's nice because I have some older sites that are on Bootstrap 4 and Bootstrap 4 primarily, and it's like when they want an update and they have like maybe new pages that are added, instead of just rebuilding a complete new thing, if they still share headers, I can just sort of integrate those things in. I've never integrated just
You mean-
typography, but
You mean they're not on Bootstrap 5?
that's right. Well, I mean, these are older sites before Bootstrap 5. But yeah, so oh, sorry, I'm just seeing that question. Is Tailwind part of DNN? Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, so I the typography one I thought would be a fun one, because if something that is just, if typography fails on a site, it's like, it's brutal. Like it's, that's one of the worst things I can. Typography and navigation, you can have an ugly website otherwise, but if your typography and navigation suck, then we're in deep trouble. So I thought that'd be a fun one to include. And also, like, just generally, as I was building those demos or those Tailwind plays, I was thinking, this is actually a really good opportunity for people to safely kind of experiment with Tailwind and just see what it's like to try it out, to see how it seems kind of intimidating. But once you start playing around in it in a safe environment with no setup, you can just go to Tailwind play. You can see how simple it actually is to configure your designs, basically. So yeah, I thought that'd be kind of a fun way to get people sort of interested, just trying it out for themselves.
I could see, Aaron, how, like, real quickly, if you just wanted to leverage that typography, or you want to leverage that reset that you were talking about, you could literally just in your theme exclude default CSS, in the normal DNN way, to exclude that, and then just pull in those pieces, and you've got a big head start on your theme, with nice typography or resets for everything. So it's a good base to start off with.
Absolutely.
More questions? Tips? Public humiliation, shaming of DNN versions? I mean, come on,
I
Jerry.
think it's worth.
Aaron, your hair
Can
is
you-
looking great. There.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, because I just wanted to say, Aaron, you are my hero for getting Daniel to undo that glow thing. It was such a misstep for them. It was shocking. And I could see why they liked it on their own skin and on their own things that they do, but it broke everyone else's website that upgraded to it. It just looked weird.
Yeah.
It was awful. You are my hero for getting rid of that.
No worries. To answer Philip's question, does Tailwind play nicely with Bootstrap 5? Absolutely. If you disable, like, let's say you have a Bootstrap 5 website or theme, if you disable the pre-flight and you prefix your classes, then you can use Tailwind as much as you want. But you have to kind of understand that, let's say you have a Bootstrap 5 website, that is the framework. That's that's what your site's on. And then the Tailwind layer is just the utility classes on top of it. So it's not really, you have to kind of think in those terms, that it's not going to be the thing that's running the show, if that makes sense. But that's something I do all the time. Yeah, it can be if you don't prefix it and everything. But I actually do that all the time because there are situations where people want, or they have a Bootstrap 5 website or a website just built on vanilla CSS, but then they want that Tailwind sort of power, and they want that perfection of design. So, and this actually comes up a lot with Plantain App, because Plantain App, of course, is built with multiple frameworks, but Bootstrap 5 being one of them. So that's where that comes into play. So you just have to do two things, and that's disable pre-flight and prefix your classes.
And you'll be happy to know in another community that pretty active in, and Daniel as well, on Stencil web components, and a lot of the Stencil communications in Slack and Discord and stuff like that. There's a lot of people integrating Tailwind with their components and so forth. So that was interesting to see that start to evolve over the past year.
Yeah,
People are really impressed with it.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. It's also cool to see ASP.NET had the or .NET had the their new website. That actually they do a combo of Bootstrap and Tailwind. Actually, I didn't dive too deep into it, but I did look at it, and you can actually see they're kind of using both, and that's a good example of like them using Tailwind as the to do a lot of the other things on their site, like the grids and whatnot, I believe. But they're probably still leveraging Bootstrap for some things, modals maybe. I think it was actually more present. So yeah, this is all Tailwind, but I think it was more present on like some of the sub pages. You can actually see like more Bootstrap classes. I think I saw Bootstrap loading on one of the sub pages. Yeah. If I remember correctly. Bootstrap custom in.
Yeah, 4.6.2. Yeah, so they're mixing the worlds. Obviously using Tailwind for some of these gradient things. Well, that one right there, no. Interesting. Some of those on the home page were really interesting to see how they did some of that stuff. Oops. Not the home page. Go back this way then. Yeah, some of this stuff is crazy.
Yeah, that very well maybe apply.
Yeah, that's what I'm figuring. Apply, and then that's just rendered. Yeah, but looks sharp. It's really sharp.
I really like it. Very modern. Pops.
We've had some situations recently where one of our designers has done some gradient stuff, which is a trend thing these days to do a lot of these gradient things. And it's a pain in the royal keister to try to pull some of that off, in Bootstrap world. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Okay, well, Aaron, thanks for sharing some of this stuff. This is really cool. See how other people.
My pleasure.
I can see how some of this stuff. But if you do want to send anything that's after the fact you think would be helpful, I'll be glad to put it on the YouTube post out there, and Ryan could probably put it in on the blog post details on the Southern Fried site. So happy to include that stuff.
Yeah, sounds great.
Well, great. We get this is a little bit shorter of a meetup, and I'm glad. I mean, that was really good. I like the shorter snippet idea there. That was really neat to do that. Kept it interesting. Just a reminder for everybody, next month we'll be doing the $100,000 pyramid, the DNN $100,000 pyramid, and Ryan will be heading that up. So come be ready to be a contestant. I think he needs 2 teams of 2 people. So and everybody else can kind of participate and haggle during the the game show. But it should be a fun one for December the 15th. That'll be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Eastern Standard Time. So look forward to seeing everybody there. We'll go ahead and end the recorded part of the meetup here. And thanks everybody for coming. I hope you have a great week.